give a big Texas-sized welcome to Mr. William Shatner!
Don't stand up, it's embarrassing. Hi everybody. Gee, I'm glad to see you on a Friday evening. I flew into Dallas and I enjoy this most of all, visiting with you guys. Hi. So the question is, how do you start these things? So I think I'll tell you a little bit about what's happening to me. And then I'll take questions, see if I can give you some straightforward answers. So the latest thing is, I'm doing a talk show called I Don't Understand. Well, I don't understand a great deal. Most of the things I don't understand. I mean, even ordinary things. Like, I talked to a lady about what is a lie? You know, she's liars. So what's a lie? Define a lie. And then go further. And finally I ended up, after a half an hour, speaking to her about religion. And it became fascinating stuff. And then one of the guests I had on I Don't Understand, which is, you get it streaming, was Bob Ballard, who filmed the Titanic. But it turns out that Bob Ballard, who's written a book recently, another one I guess, he's a marine biologist. And he's famous as a marine biologist. And I said to him, why are you filming the Titanic? And why do you go to Scotland and film for the Loch Ness Monster? And you're a serious marine biologist. He said, well, in the case of the Titanic, the Navy had found where the Thresher submarine, some years ago, an American submarine with rocket-tipped atomic bombs went down, sank in this deep, deep part of the ocean. And the government, the American government, wanted to get those bombs out of the way and the secrets of the submarine before the Russians could. And the Russians were like 400 miles up there. And so Ballard, while helping with the Thresher, was filming the Titanic, making a big do, oh, we're filming the Titanic. And the Russians never knew what was really happening, was raising the Thresher. So I said, well, what's a serious marine biologist doing filming in Loch Ness, look for the Loch Ness Monster? And he said, National Geographic has given me a lot of money. So but what he told me, because as this guy who was examining plate tectonics in the bottom of the ocean, so somewhere in the Atlantic, one of the plates, I guess the North American plate, is going that way, and the European plate or something is going that way. And in the center, where those plates are moving off, is the bare skin of the planet. The magma is boiling up there. So he put a bathysphere down there, and there are people inside this titanium ball, and it goes down 30,000 feet. And they're down 30,000 feet and looking at the magma boiling up, and they get caught and they got to get out. Now they're raising the bathysphere, and the people inside the bathysphere, looking out the window, are seeing chimneys, flutes, calcified flutes going up maybe 15 feet. And at the top of the flute is boiling water from the magma, 600 degrees. 600 degrees boiling water, sulfurous. Sulfur, so there's an acid of some kind. 30,000 feet, there's no sunlight. 600 degrees Fahrenheit, and they see worms, 13-foot worms, and giant clams. They're alive. in those conditions. There's no sunlight, there's no oxygen, it's sulfur, it's all those pounds of pressure, and they're alive. So what does that say about life existing in the universe? Under those extreme conditions, life still is exerting itself. Slime creeps up and tries to find the sunlight. Slime is alive and intelligent enough to want to live. What does that say about UFOs being inhabited? Now, I was recently, not too long ago, on Ancient Aliens, and we had a discussion of all the experts, the so-called experts. Yes, UFOs exist in there, and the little green men, and I'd gone in there somewhat skeptical. The Captain Kirk, but still, if there are people in those UFOs, why aren't they landing on the White House lawn, not someplace in the Florida swamps? Why aren't they communicating with us? They've come all this way. What are they doing? So that was my argument. But these experts had lots to say, especially recently with the Navy releasing those films about strange things moving at extreme speeds. What are they doing? Who's there? What's that? So I told them when I left, I was somewhat skeptical about the whole thing when I went in, but by the time I was finished, I said I was less skeptical. And then when I talked to Bob Ballard and saw the way life has a mandate to live, I thought, we got to think a little more about UFOs and what they're doing. I mean, UFOs is unidentified flying objects. It doesn't mean they're inhabited by little green men, but it's still very weird. And if you're interested in science fiction, like I am, and we write science fiction, but I'm not sure how much is fiction anymore. So that's what I was doing. I recently was on a program called Shark Week. Shark Week. So I was thinking about astronauts and what they feel as they're lying on their back, waiting for the engines to ignite. All that liquid oxygen and nitrogen furiously going into the fuselage, and then it ignites in this tremendous roar of smoke and fire, and this thing starts to rise most of the time. They're lying on their back thinking, I hope this thing doesn't fall over. Well, I mean, imagine all the terrible mistakes that have been made inadvertently. Obviously, we're humans and we make mistakes, but when they send up the telescope, and the telescope is blurred because some people were using imperial and the others were using metric, and they weren't, I don't know, how does a multi-billion-dollar project and they don't communicate? Oh, are you doing inches? Well, we're doing, metric. They didn't speak to each other about that. So when this multi-billion-dollar telescope went up in the air, they couldn't see anything. They had to send astronauts back up to fix it. So imagine that's going through astronauts' mind. Is it light? Is it lit? Is it going? Are we getting up? Is the O-ring frozen? What's happening? That fear. And that's been an interesting aspect to me. Like, fear. How do you face fear? So I did this shark with this fascinating guy, Josh Gates of Episodes Unknown or Places Unknown. It's an interesting program where he goes all over the world. So he invited me to come and swim with the sharks. Now, I've been a diver. I've been a deep sea a diver. I've got my open water diving license for many years. And they teach you know about sharks? Just back away. If you see a shark, just get out of the way. Don't go near a shark. Don't go invite a shark for dinner. And that's what we were doing. I sat on a rock, 60 feet of water up there, air up there, water down here, and I watched 4 18-foot tiger sharks with the stripes. There's the great white shark who's the top, the apex predator, and there's these leopard sharks, tiger sharks. Tiger sharks are the next apex predator. When the whites aren't around, the tiger sharks are the most, they're 18 feet from here to there. They're black, and the mouths, they look about 18 inches wide. And there were 4 of them. And there was a Bahamian diver behind me. I said later, what are you doing behind me? He says, they are ambush predators. So I've got your back. And every so often he'd dart off and he'd push a shark aside who was going to eat a cameraman. I'm telling you, I was dealing with fear. So that permeates a lot of what I do, trying to face my fear. And I keep challenging myself. That was ridiculous. Just one more anecdote about that before I take your questions. So I'm ready to jump in. You got your mask, you got your tank, you're ready to go in. And the guy says, no. My Bahamian friend said, now be careful. He says, there's a half a dozen sharks. They're chumming. They're sending out pieces of fish to attract the sharks. And there's a half a dozen sharks swimming around. And he said, now, the most dangerous time, Bill, is jumping in, and they're all wearing chainmail, and I'm not. Okay. Why? I don't know. So be careful going in. And then the other time that's really dangerous is coming out. So I jumped in, and then I dive down below and have that experience with the tiger sharks. And there's a woman over there, 30 years she's been in this spot. She's the shark whisperer. And she's petting the sharks. She's surrounded with sharks, 5-foot young sharks, and she's petting them. And then, like I say, I'm sitting on a rock, and she comes over, and she puts a 5-foot shark in my lap. And I don't have the gloves on, so I'm able to pet a shark. Now, sharks, for some reason, I don't know the reason behind what is called a tonic feint in that if you turn a shark over and you pet its belly, it goes into a kind of feint. And orcas, when they see a great white shark, 2 of them turn the shark over and pet it on its belly, and it kind of faints, and then they eat its liver. That's what you orcas have known what to do. So I'm thinking, this little shark is in a tonic feint. And then inadvertently, I put my finger in its gills, and it and swam off. Oh my God, it could have bitten me. And then when I was coming out, I remembered what the guy had said at the most dangerous times when you're getting out. So I'm getting out of the ladder, and I swear I could hear one of those sharks say, "Who's that asshole?" So That's my way of saying hello. Thank you. Oh, lovely young ladies waving at me. Why don't you ask me a question and I'll ramble on. Yes, good for you.
Hi, it's a question about...
Now, you have to get really close to that mic and speak loudly.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
A question about your UFOs, when you had that expert panel, did they mention interdimensionality? Because particle physicists...
I'm not quite understanding. So here's what I'd like you to do. Take the mask off for a moment. That's it. Speak like you did into the microphone.
Okay. A question about the UFOs in your panel. I've heard that...
Louder.
The particle physicists and the mathematicians have proved the existence of 10 different dimensions. Did your panel at the UFOs talk about these UFOs going to be interdimensionally transitioning between our 4 dimensions, and that's why they're able to transition at high speeds at right angles?
Right. So you're talking about esoteric science possibilities that offer a reasoning why UFOs can go through space and time. Right. So, I don't understand. I don't understand. Even something more basic than that. Look, the telescope, what's the name of the big telescope? The Hubble telescope. The Hubble telescope has reached far, far into the universe. And something that most of us know is like 15 billion, the universe is 15 billion years old. Now, we see a galaxy at the far end of the red shift. We know it's way 15 billion years as far as we can see, and that's the last thing we can see. So it must be that the universe is 15.8 billion years old. Now what I don't understand is that photon of light from that galaxy has woven its way through all these giant bodies that are gravitational pull on this particle of light. Okay? Or the particle of light may be a wave. Yeah, I don't understand that either. But apparently nobody else does. That particle of light has finally reached my eye. And I don't understand why they talk about time, space. Time, space. Well, it's time, space. Well, you mean the photon of light went through space? Yeah. Well, that photon of light is gone through space. We don't call it time, space. Space, it's a presence of light. Why do they call it time, space? That's even simpler than what you've just talked about. Because what you've just talked about is so theoretical that it may or may not exist. You can't say it doesn't exist. But let me tell you the latest that I've learned. Quantum physics, okay? A study of the little tiny thing, the littlest thing, the constitution of atoms, and the constitution of the atoms. And it's a constitution, the Second Amendment. Okay, so what is the atoms and those quarks? What do they consist of? They're examining that. I was told by scientists that one of the most peculiar things that scientists are examining is that by looking at something, they bring it into existence. You know that one? Yes? You're nodding your head, yes? Well, I would say verbally.
A little bit, not much.
My God, man, it's like the miracle of all time. They discovered, these scientists, that when you are examining something, it winks into existence. And when they stop examining it, it winks out. It comes into existence and leaves. I mean, what is existence? Where did it go? Where did it come from? I don't understand. So I was talking with this theoretical thing. Where does something that you're examining, where has it been and where is it going? Does it cease to exist? And this scientist said, well, no, it was Bob Ballard. Said, well, I hate to disappoint you, but when you examine something very closely, you're magnifying it, you're putting the light on it, you know, and you see it. And then you stop putting the light on it and you don't see it. Well, it doesn't come into existence and then cease to exist. You just don't see it because you're not examining it. Gee whiz. That's earth-shattering. I thought that was the act of God. God has got us thinking about us and we exist, and then God doesn't think about us and we cease to exist. No! It's just the guy's looking at it, looks away, oh, look at the pretty girl, and he doesn't see the thing. It ceases to exist. To him, it's gone, it's there. So your theory of did they come around and did they get in and if they came in this warp and you get use all the energy and bring time to you, the time. And what is time?
Interdimensional transitioning. We only live in 4 dimensions, but they prove the existence of 6 other dimensions. So coming in and out is just transitioning from our 4-dimensional reality.
No, man, it's like a light on something and the light goes out. It's still there in the dark. That's how logical some of those explanations can be. Now, whether there's 11 universes or not, and whether we're a dream of some higher power, we don't exist. I don't know.
Thank you.
Not a satisfactory answer. I can hear you. Thank you. The hell is Shatner? And it's true. I know nothing. But then, neither do you. Yes, sir.
So I've seen every episode of any Star Trek movie or series that you have ever been in. And
that's more than I've done. I've seen nothing. I hate myself.
well,
I mean, on camera. I certainly.
so
Maybe I do hate myself. Go ahead.
of all of the co-stars,
Closer.
of all of the co-stars that you've worked with in any Star Trek episode or movie, do you have a favorite co-star or co-stars?
So, you're talking about, do I have a favorite thing I've done?
No, a favorite
Star Trek.
actor like DeForest Kelly or Leonard Nimoy.
Well, let me tell you a story. So Stephen Hawking. Yeah. So Stephen Hawking, I'm sure most of us know, had ALS. And he gradually died in his wheelchair, became more and more helpless, and all that was operating was his brain. So I was doing an interview show, another one, something else, and I thought, wow, I'd love to interview Stephen Hawking because he had come to the Star Trek set. And he was able to walk at that time. He was walking. And he went into the engine room where the dilithium crystal was supposed to be. There's the dilithium crystal was over there. And he smiled a little bit and he said, I'm working on that. And I used that as a title for a book of futuristic things that were happening. I'm working on that. I went to universities and looked at things that scientists are working on, some of which have come to pass. So, about a year ago, I guess, we wrote him and said, can I come and interview you? And he answered by saying, if you write out the questions and present them to me, and say the very exact question you asked me, I'll be able to answer it. And also, Mr. Shatner, I have something I want to ask you. Like this gentleman here. If they went through another, is he going to ask me about asteroids, or is he going to ask me about time and dimension, or photon? Yeah, that's what he's going to ask me about. The black hole and the horizon, the event horizon. He's going to, sure, that's what he wants to know from me about all that. I get to Cambridge, we go to his house, line up the cameras. I'm sitting here, we got a seat there, and he's wheeled in his wheelchair, you know how he was, and he's there, and I'm here, and there are the cameras. So, I'm able to see the computer that he's working on there. Now, he's able to work the computer. He's totally helpless. Totally and utterly helpless. The inadvertent movements that he makes internally, I guess, the only ones he could make by will was to twitch a muscle on his cheek. He was able to do this. So they had a device right there which moved the mouse on the computer. So he could spell what he wanted to say. So then he would say, the black hole is over there. Then he put the mouse on it and press a button, and the mechanical voice would say, the black hole is over there. So he was able to speak in a fashion, but it took an inordinate length of time for him to move that mouse around and spell what he wanted to say. So I asked him the questions that we had, I forgot the question, and then he just pressed a button, and the mechanical voice gave the answer out. Finished the 3 or 4 questions, and I said, Dr. Hawking, you wrote to me that you had something to ask me. What could you possibly ask me, sir? And so laboriously he starts to write out WHATAREYOUR favorite episodes. Dr. Stephen Hawking wanted to know the same thing you want to know. My favorite episode. I don't know all 79. There may be some gems there that I don't even know about. I mean, the ones we all talk about, the City on the Edge of Forever, the guy was half black and half white, meets a half white, half black. I mean, there were some wonderful stories. The reason we're all here is Star Trek. But it's Dr. Stephen Hawking! And now you want to know my favorite episode? Yes, the Tribbles. I knew it was his. That's what you were saying to your friend. I knew it. It's mine. I like it. Okay. Is this the only mic? Oh, there's a mic over there. What are we doing, folks? Come on. Let's see. Yes, sir. Oh, why didn't you tell me?
Did you receive a lot of praise or backlash for having a first interracial kiss?
Oh,
I love it.
No, you gotta understand that Michelle is a beautiful woman.
Yes.
And she's got beautiful lips. Okay? So, and she's a little short, but that's okay. And when I approached her, all I could see was that mouth. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm talking about? Yeah? So interracial didn't enter into it at all. It was upper and lower lip, is what it was.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so there's only a mic on that side, this side. That's prejudicial. There's nothing on the left. But then I'm in Texas, right? Okay. All right. Little shorty one. Nice and loud into that mic, because the reverberations in this room are awful.
So, I grew
Not
up.
loud enough. Come on, your mother said again and again. What's your name?
My name's Holly.
Polly?
Holly.
Holly. How many times did your mother say, Holly, speak up?
A lot.
Speak up, Holly.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
I grew up with you in my household all the time. That man is my father.
Which band?
He just asked you what your favorite episode was.
Oh.
Yeah, so
You're both sick.
I know. He has told me stories when he was going to college. He would watch Star Trek and he would look up in the dictionary all the different technical terms that you guys would use because he was going to be an engineer and he wanted to know all about Star Trek and everything.
So what happened? What did he study?
He studied engineering and he got his engineering degree. He's a total nerd about you.
What?
He's a total nerd for you.
Nerd for me?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nerd for me?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nerd for me.
But you have just changed our family, our society, and back when you were shooting it,
Yeah.
it was all brand new. It wasn't an iconic thing. Were you guys just goofing off on set, and there's things that you think back on where you guys were just so casual and you didn't even know that it was gonna change society?
Oh, you're cute. No, sweetheart, of course not. I mean, we're actors grubbing for a living. My agent, this is what they're paying you. They're only paying me that, I mean, it was this showbiz thing is a mixture. Probably everything is. Between something that is idealistic, like, I'm an actor and I'm entertaining, I'm making people laugh, and I gotta go to the bathroom. That's the reality.
How do I get out of this onesie?
No, but you can have a weak bladder and be so embarrassed about it all. No, so there we were. Actors, we hardly knew each other at the beginning. Got to know each other very well. Leonard Nimoy became my best friend, my brother. I loved him. Yeah, I think about him a lot, and how good he was. He was a good man, and DeForest Kelly, Southern gentleman. I loved him. I had the best time. I had the best time because I got to kiss the girl and hit the villain and say these wonderful words that were written, or at least the concepts were by great science fiction writers. And we had the best time. Then one day, after 3 years, and they kept cutting the budget. So now I hear budgets of like $2 million an hour for an hour show. Our budget was like $165,000. Yeah, it was crazy. Of course, that was in those days. The dollar was worth more, but still, it was unheard of to have that kind of a show with that kind of money. So we blundered along, and so many times necessity makes something better. If you have to deal with the circumstances frequently, not always, but frequently, if you have to really, how can I do this, do it well under these circumstances? I can't. Okay, I'll do this and I'll get that. And it turns out, in some cases, better, the mother of invention. And that's what happened. We couldn't run and jump and have big special effects. We had to tell some weird and interesting and humane stories. And that's what appealed to me because I write a little and I appreciate the written word. So that's what we were aware of, that the scripts in many cases were terrific. And then at the end of the third year, I think I had the flu. I was glad it was over. I went to rest, and it was over. And it was over. 6 years later, I'm doing something else, and somebody says to me, "Did you see the what do they call it? Where we goof off the reel that were the bloopers? Did you see the blooper reel at the bar in the ski area?" "No, what's that?" "Well, all you guys are goofing off all those years ago. They put it together." What? I look like an idiot. Look at me, I'm an idiot in front of everybody. How's that? And then they started to say, "Well, it's gotten popular in syndication. It's showing at a different hour, and people are what? Yeah, they want to make a movie. They want to make a movie. Well, the movie failed. They burned all the sets. Well, that's it. No. Studio says, we'll make another movie. And we'll make it cheap, more cheaply, more reasonably. So instead of spending $100 million, it's spent $30 million. And it's a success. And the movie makes money. And then another movie makes money. And then they say, well, let's make another Star Trek, Now, how many Star Treks are there out there? Yeah, like that. Innumerable. I don't watch any of them. But Star Trek is a phenomenon. It's like never been and never will be, because it took 55 years to reach this point. So all of us, including me, won't be here in 55 years, most of us. Maybe you, Holly, will be here. How old are you, Holly?
21.
So 76 years old.
I'd like to say that my name is Holly, and I'd like to ask you about a question.
Sounds about right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Bill.
Perfect. I can understand every word.
Fantastic start. Your movie with Sybil Shepherd, Secrets of a Married Man, and Big Bad Mama with Angie Dickinson. Can you talk about any stories behind those two films?
You nasty man. Nothing about Star Trek, it's all about sex. What two beautiful women they were. Well, they are beautiful women, and they certainly were lovely. I had to get naked with Angie Dickinson. I had to get naked with Angie. I remember that the director had us over at his house prior to shooting, and he said, "Well, now Angie, I don't imagine Bill cares very much whether he's naked, but what we'll do, Angie, how can we make you feel better about being naked on camera?" He says, "Well, if you get rid of all the people working on the crew, get the crew, and the makeup people, just my makeup lady, just what everybody else should leave, and the cast. Bill obviously has to stay, but everybody else, just if it's all empty and just the bare minimum of people looking at me, I think I can get through it." So now we're ready to shoot, and she's been shooting for a while, so she's gotten to know everybody. I'm coming in. The first scene I had was in bed naked with Angie Dickinson. So I get into bed, and she comes in. And the director says, "All right, everybody, you got to leave now." And Angie says, "Oh, no, wait a minute. George, you can stay. Walter, you don't no point in you leave." "Oh, no, she's calling everybody back. And I'm going, really? What? Angie Dickinson, what a wonderful, lustrous woman. And Sybil Shepherd, so intelligent and so crazy. She was a little crazy then, not now, but she was a little bit crazy. I don't know what happened. I had to take her by the elbow and put her into a telephone booth to make a call. That's what I recall. And she was like this, supposed to fight me. You can't really fight because anybody can get away from anybody. Got somebody by the elbow, and run off. And there's no scene, so she has to stay. She has to look like she's fighting, but not really fight. But she's really fighting. So I'm going to no. And turned it into a fight to get her into the telephone booth. And she complained that I left some bruises on her arm or something. I said, yes, that's it.
Thank you.
Sorry to disappoint you. My dear, you look wonderful.
Thank you.
What is it?
Solid Snake.
No, nice and loud into that mic.
Solid Snake.
Perhaps for this moment, just for this moment, take down your mask. There you go.
It's Solid Snake from Metal Gear.
It's all made from what?
Metal Gear.
Metal?
Metal Gear, like gears, like grinding.
No, you gotta get closer to the mic. I hear you. It's all made of metal gear.
Metal Gear, like a G. G.
Oh, Metal Gear.
There you go.
No kidding. Did you do it?
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, we'd be in a lot of trouble if I failed my mission.
Well, wait a minute. It's like mesh then, right? But it's made with gears instead of wire.
It's Kevlar. Yeah, it takes a little.
Is it drafty? Have you got underwear on? Or are you just shifting gears?
Snakes.
I got you there. Yeah. Oh, Shatner made me sound bad.
But yes, I just wanted to ask if you
Right into the mic.
if you have any like funny drunk stories with Leonard Nimoy or any of the other Star Trek guys.
Oh, he was drunk all the time. And we could hardly get stories of my cast members. Well, I did a one-man show on Broadway, and I used this story, so I remember it fairly well. If you don't mind, I don't imagine anybody saw me on Broadway in a one-man show for the run. Oh, I think I toured Dallas as well. I toured here. In any case, early on in my career, I had to use a bow and and arrow. So the stunt guys taught me. And then they introduced me to some famous hunters, bow hunters, and I became quite good with bow and arrow. And in fact, those many years ago, the American sportsman sent me up to Alaska to bow hunt a large brown bear. Not the small grizzly, but the big bears, and I got one. And I'm so embarrassed and ashamed of it. But the point is, I got really good with a bow and arrow, and I got to be a really good hunter with a bow and arrow. So being a hunter, being somebody, you know, see the animal, and you can move, see what the animal's going to do, and you don't dare move quickly, but you fasten on it. You listen and you look and you see what it's doing. You have to, in order to get closer to it, because you got to get close to the bow. So I've got an eye. I used to watch DeForest Kelly come in through that door. There'd be a table of food here in the morning, so that you would have enough sustenance to get through the day. And every day, this Southern gentleman would come in, stop at the table, pick up a bagel, cut the bagel, put it in the just his whole body. I can't wait for it. Oh, there it pops up. Okay? So one day he came in. I know he was going to push that thing. He's waiting. He's waiting. And I said to Leonard, distract DeForest. So Leonard says, D, I got something in my eye. Can you take a look at my... So he turns his attention over here, and he's paying attention to Leonard. And I go to the toaster. Now, in the dark nights, when we would film Star Trek, when it's 3 in the morning, you know, you relax, you're talking, and you reveal yourself more lightly than in the bright sunlight. And DeForest and I had this wonderful relationship, and he said to me one day, you know, Bill, what I'm really afraid of is losing my memory. I mean, I'm an actor, and if I lose my memory, gee, you know, sometimes I can't find my key. I said, D, for God's sakes, DeForest, everybody has those lapses of memory. Yeah, don't be afraid, because fear will make it even more difficult to memorize lines. And relax, you're okay, D, you're okay, my friend, you're all right. So he's over there tending to his friend Leonard, and the bagel pops up, and I take the bagel and push the thing back down. Now DeForest comes over and waits for it, then it pops up. There's no bagel. Damn it. I could have sworn, he takes another bagel, puts it down there, puts it back down there. Now, he's no longer like joyful. He's like, son of a bitch. Leonard, distract D, I didn't get that. Otherwise, he goes over, and I lift up the door, and I grab the bagels, and I push the thing like that. And now, DeForest, and it pops up, and there's nothing there. And then he sees me choking on bagel. I'm choking on bagel. I did a Shatner with you! He didn't speak to me for a